Hey, this is Aaron,
And this is Kristin.
and this is the Drive Mode Show.
Welcome back. Today, Aaron, I think we should talk about the Rogue.
Nissan Rogue, not the Star Wars.
Not the Rogue.
Although there was a tie-in back in the day when Rogue One came out.
Shepard Northman, that was a pretty cool idea with the Star Wars vehicles. You the 2021 Nissan Rogue, right?
Yes, completely new, totally revamped. If you parked the previous generation and this one next to each other, very little similarity in terms of how they look.
Huh.
So,
like design wise, what did you notice in particular that was different?
First thing I noticed is the flatter grille, the more truck-like front end. So it's more of an SUV than it was before. It just has a kind of a bulkier appearance about it, which is really interesting because it's actually almost 4 inches shorter in terms of length versus the previous one. A lot of that, I think, is because they cut the nose out. You know, it had kind of a longer nose, and now it's flat. And then they just kind of pushed it like this a little bit. Wheelbase is about the same. Well, wheelbase is a little bit longer in this one, but width is about the same, so track is about the same. And overall height is roughly the same. It's a little bit shorter, but not by very much. But the interior is bigger. They did more work on kind of opening the interior. The previous one, seating was kind of thick. The storage between the seats was a little bit big. Everything sort of created a confinement. Pillars were thick and all of that. They shrunk all of that, made it smaller, so that the inside feels bigger, and then headroom is phenomenal. So
that's important for people that are tall like you.
Right. Front and back seat, I can sit in both. I have about an inch of clearance up there, which is pretty good considering I'm 6'3".
Yep.
Cargo space is about the same. In fact, I think the cargo space with the second rows up is exactly the same, but it actually gets slightly larger, so it's about 1 or 2 cubic feet larger when you fold the seats down than it was before. And that's because it's a taller, more square rather than that rounded from before.
Now, speaking of seats, the new Rogue has the zero gravity seats that Nissan does so well, right?
In 4 out of 5 seating spots. So the middle seat still gets screwed over in the back, but everybody else. Sorry, you're still sitting on the hump.
I love those seats. I think they are not talked about enough. They really are. They really make a difference when you're taking it long.
They're really good. And the real trick to them, and I think this is why they get overlooked so much, the real trick to them is to position the seat. So if you sit in the back seats, which don't move too much, the position is already there, and so you'll feel it. In the front seating, I think a lot of people, we tend to either be way too upright or way too laid back. And the perfect position for this is actually somewhere in the middle. So you want to be kind of slightly tilted backwards, but not very much at all. And then you'll just feel it support your spinal column, and there you go. Now you're floating.
Yeah, I love those seats. And not everybody has comfortable seats, or puts the effort into it. So I applaud Nissan for that because I think that's a great touch. Tell me more about the interior. What did you like and not like?
So I really like the interior feel and design. It looks really good. It's really comfortable. Everything is where you expect it to be. So controls are easy to find. Storage is just intuitively used the right way. Just plugs are all there. Everything is good in that way. The floating infotainment screen, so instead of being embedded in the dash, it's now floating kind of above it a little bit. Not a big fan of those. I always feel like they're going to break. Something's going to hit them. Something's going to happen. And then Nissan's infotainment is it's clunky. It's good as far as being able to do stuff, but the interface it's just a little outdated. It's not as outdated as say Toyota, but it's getting there. It feels like it needs a serious update. It needs to be more modern. Finding things on it is usually easy, but there are things if you're looking for like vehicle settings, or if you happen to have a model with like the HUD display, finding the controls for that takes some time, and it could use a little bit of work. The voice command system is still that really slow and tedious question and answer thing, which is, I mean, that was great in the early 2000s, but now that's not what we want anymore. And that's actually my biggest knock on the Rogue altogether, is just that infotainment. The cargo area still has the stackable and settable shelving system, so you can. I love that, because if you buy like bread, you can put it in one side, and then you can set the shelf up, and then you can put your watermelons and everything that wants to crush the bread on the other side. You can make little like shelf tiers, so you can stack things, and then they come all the way out to give you that extra. I think it's about 2 inches of depth, if you want that extra room.
I forget what they call it, but
I forget too. Everybody has a name for everything, and it's hard to remember it.
Handy, like when you're taking groceries home, and
some
way to contain it and keep them from all rolling all over each other. It's pretty nice. So it has good space in the back.
Lots of space. The seating is good. If you're putting 3 across, then like any vehicle of that size, they're going to be a little shoulder cramped. But for the most part, the back seats are awesome. I was happy to sit in it. I didn't feel like I was being chinced because I had to sit in the back. And there's 2 USB plugs in the back, which is a good thing. And then the engine, Nissan has been using the 2.5 for a really long time, and it's a great engine. And in this, they gave it a little bit of a boost. It's been retuned a little bit, so the CVT isn't so sluggish. The CVT used to be a serious drag in the Rogue. Biggest complaint in the last generation was just that CVT. It never wanted to do anything. They've reprogrammed that a little bit. It feels a lot better.
Good.
So it's 181 horsepower, 181 pound-feet of torque. And you're getting the max horsepower at pretty high RPM, but most people are going to be able to get 100 and 120 in regular driving. And with the torque, you're getting it fairly early. So it peaks at something like 3,500 RPM. So you're getting a lot of torque from the get-go. It's a pretty good curve. And it just feels right. The CVT's not dragging it down. It's going with the flow and doing a good job.
What does the Rogue cost?
I don't know the numbers exactly right off the top of my head, but you're going to start somewhere in the mid-20s for the cheapest version. Most people are probably going to be buying somewhere around 30 to 33,000 on it. The one that I drove was pushing 40,000,
Okay.
but that was fully loaded, everything you can imagine in it. And even, what's that?
Upgraded audio?
Yes. And my daughter is obsessed with a song from Avatar called Colossus. And we were jamming it in that car. It's a good driving.
You're giving your kids a good music education, Aaron. Here, kids, can you do this?
My daughter does it automatically whenever you put point a camera at her. My youngest will immediately.
Okay, so what did your kids think of the Rogue? Did they enjoy riding in it? Was it comfortable for them?
I think it was. They didn't complain. That's a good thing. They liked the amount of interior that they had. So, when they climb in, like I picked them up from school, each of them has a viola, And so there's two violas and a clarinet. There's backpacks that I don't know what they carry. It amazes me how much crap kids will put in their backpacks. At least we're past the rock phase. You remember when they were like second and third grade? My daughter would literally have a backpack full of rocks, like just rocks. And she would carry it around every day. Why do you need these rocks?
Dude.
And yeah, just getting in and out. A big thing in the Rogue, the back doors open a full 90 degrees, so they're completely perpendicular with the side of the car, and that creates a huge opening getting in and out, much easier to use. And yeah, just those little ergonomic touches that really improved it from what was already a pretty good design anyway. So.
And I think that it's a good, to your point, I think it's a good sandwich generation car. It's easy for kids to get in and out. It's easy for grown-ups and even grown-ups with mobility issues to get in and out. And that's what makes it a really smart choice.
Yeah, it doesn't sit too high off the ground, so it's easy to step in and out of. It has pretty low door sills and pretty high openings. So getting in and out, you don't have to do a lot of contorting to get in and out of it. And then just the seating is the right height. So when you're in it, you feel okay. One thing about the Rogue that I've noticed doesn't happen in similar sized vehicles is when you're in the back seat as a tall person, my knees aren't doing this. They're fairly flat. They're not totally flat, but I don't expect that of anything but a pickup truck. They're not like this. And not having that thigh support because your knees pushed up so your thighs are off the seat, that sucks in a long-term drive. When you're on a long drive, it really, really starts to hurt. Your feet start going to sleep. You shuffle around a lot. You can't get your hips comfortable. Not so in the Rogue. It was very well done for such a small vehicle. It's surprising how accommodating it was for a big person. So that's lots of kudos for that one.
So for a small family or a young professional, do you recommend the Rogue?
Oh, definitely. It's a bestseller, and there's good reason for it. And I expect this new generation to do even better. It's exactly right for somebody who's maybe a single parent, one or two kids, or a small family, couple of adults, one or two kids. And for somebody who maybe doesn't tote the entire family around all the time, but they do want to be able to come home from work after their commute, get out of the car, take the tie off or swap out the skirt for something more comfortable, and then load everybody up and head out for burgers or whatever.
Ice cream.
Yeah, it's a really well done, right sized vehicle.
That's good to hear. I like the Rogue. It's fun. I think it has a lot of good features. So if they'd update the infotainment a little bit more, it could be perfect to that price point.
I think so.
All right. Well, that's what we have for today. Nissan Rogue, thanks for paying attention to us.
This has been Aaron.
And this is Kristin.
And this was the Drive Mode Show.
Thanks for joining us.
And subscribe and stuff.